When you think of action heroes who bring raw energy, gritty realism, and unshakable toughness to the screen, Jason Statham is right there at the top. He's not just an actor who looks the part, he's lived it. From street markets in England to Hollywood blockbusters, his life story is filled with twists that feel like they were written for an action film. This isn't the polished tale of someone groomed from childhood for fame. It's the story of a man who clawed his way to the top, a man whose background is as fascinating as the high-speed chases and bone-crunching fights he delivers on screen. Today, we're diving into the top 10 facts about Jason Statham that reveal the grit, hustle, and surprising turns behind the man we know as Hollywood's go-to tough guy. Let's start with 2 facts that set the foundation for who Jason Statham really is. Theater 10. He was a competitive diver before Hollywood ever called. Before Jason Statham was breaking bones on screen, he was breaking records in the water. Growing up in Shirebrook, Derbyshire, England, Statham didn't come from wealth or privilege. His dad was a street seller and lounge singer, while his mom worked as a dancer. Money was tight, and young Jason had to learn to hustle early. But what really shaped him as a teenager wasn't acting. It was diving. Not scuba diving, but professional competitive diving, the kind you'd see in the Olympics. Statham became a member of Britain's national diving squad for over a decade. Think about that. More than 10 years of discipline, training, and performing at the highest levels of sport. He specialized in platform diving, launching himself from dizzying heights and executing complex flips before slicing into the water. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, Jason represented England in competitions across the globe, even participating in the 1990 Commonwealth Games in Auckland, New Zealand. Now, here's the crazy part. Jason Statham never actually made it to the Olympics, despite his years of dedication. He placed respectably in competitions, often finishing in the top 12, but he never broke into the top 3. For a lot of people, that might have been the end of the dream. But for Statham, those years weren't wasted. They forged his body into an athletic machine and his mind into something equally powerful, resilient, focused, and disciplined. And when you look at him on screen today, whether he dangling from a helicopter in The Expendables or doing his own stunts in Crank, you can see the precision and physical control that comes from his diving background. Diving isn't just about athleticism. It's about fearlessness, timing, and the ability to perform under extreme pressure. Those exact qualities became the building blocks of his Hollywood career. What's even more interesting is how that diving career ended. In his late 20s, Jason realized he wasn't going to make it to Olympic glory. He had dedicated half his life to a sport that wasn't going to pay the bills or put food on the table. He needed to reinvent himself, and that's when life threw him a wild curveball that would launch him toward an entirely different destiny. Number 9. He was discovered while selling fake perfume and jewelry on the street. Jason Statham didn't grow up with a silver spoon. After stepping away from competitive diving, he needed money. And fast. Like his dad before him, Jason turned to the streets. Literally. He started selling knockoff perfume, cheap jewelry, and counterfeit goods in the bustling markets of London. Imagine walking down Oxford Street and bumping into a young, muscular guy with a Cockney accent trying to convince you that a bottle of designer perfume was the real deal. That was Jason Statham before the fame. He wasn't ashamed of the hustle either. For Jason, selling on the streets was survival. He learned how to size people up quickly, talk fast, and close a deal. It wasn't glamorous, but it sharpened his instincts. And here's where the twist of fate comes in. While Jason was hustling on the streets, a talent scout noticed him. Not because he was selling perfume, but because of his raw, rugged look. He had that authentic, street-tough vibe, the kind Hollywood spends millions trying to manufacture. This chance encounter led him into the world of modeling. Believe it or not, Jason started doing gigs for fashion brands, most notably French Connection. But here's the funny thing. Even when he was modeling, he never really looked like a polished model. He looked like a guy who might rough you up outside a pub. and that authenticity worked in his favor. Directors didn't see a pretty boy. They saw a man with grit. The real breakthrough came when British director Guy Ritchie was casting for his crime comedy Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels in 1998. Ritchie wanted someone who wasn't just acting like a street hustler. He wanted someone who had lived that life. Jason Statham fit the bill perfectly. His experience hustling knockoffs on the street wasn't just a footnote in his life. It became his audition tape for Hollywood. When Statham showed up for the casting, Ritchie had him improvise as if he were selling fake jewelry to the casting team. Jason nailed it, because he wasn't acting. He was just being himself. That role launched his acting career. Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels was a breakout hit, turning Jason Statham into a recognizable face overnight. Critics and audiences alike loved his authentic, no-nonsense style. He wasn't polished. He wasn't faking it. He was the real deal. And from there, the doors to Hollywood began to open. This fact tells you something crucial about Jason Statham. He is not the kind of guy who was handed opportunities. He created them. Whether it was diving, hustling on the streets, or modeling, he kept reinventing himself until the right door opened. And once it did, he kicked it off the hinges. These first two facts alone show us just how unusual Jason Statham's path to fame really was. He wasn't a child actor, he wasn't discovered in a theater school, and he didn't come from Hollywood royalty. He was a hustler, an athlete, and a man who turned every setback into fuel for the next opportunity. Figure 8, he didn't use stunt doubles, because he is the stunt double. One of the most jaw-dropping things about Jason Statham's career is how often he puts his own life on the line for the sake of a film. While many actors let stunt doubles handle the dangerous work, Jason insists on doing the majority of his stunts himself. And we're not just talking about simple fist fights. We're talking about death-defying leaps, high-speed car chases, underwater escapes, and sequences that could seriously injure or even kill him if anything went wrong. This dedication comes directly from his athletic background. Diving gave him control over his body, a fearlessness about heights, and the ability to perform with precision under pressure. Combine that with martial arts training. He studied kickboxing, karate, and Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and you've got someone who doesn't just look like he can fight, but actually can. That authenticity is why audiences believe every punch, kick, and crash he delivers. Take Crank, 2006, for example. In one scene, Jason had to leap out of a helicopter mid-flight and grapple with his opponent while plummeting toward the ground. There was no studio trickery. He actually hung out of that chopper and performed the stunt, harnessed but still exposed to incredible risk. In The Transporter, he performed nearly all the car stunts himself, including precision driving sequences that most actors wouldn't dare attempt. He even trained extensively in martial arts choreography to make every fight look like a brutal ballet of fists and kicks. And then there's the story of The Expendables 3. During filming, Jason was behind the wheel of a 3-ton stunt truck when its brakes failed. The vehicle went straight off the dock, plunging into the Black Sea. Most actors would have panicked. Jason? He stayed calm, escaped through the window, and swam to safety. Sylvester Stallone later said that if anyone else had been driving, they probably wouldn't have survived. Jason's diving and swimming background saved his life. What makes this even more fascinating is the philosophy behind it. Jason has said in interviews that he doesn't want audiences to feel cheated. He believes viewers can sense when something is fake, when the actor is swapped out for a stunt double, or when CGI takes over. By doing it himself, he keeps the action real. It has the same reason people still watch Jackie Chan movies. You're not just watching a character, you're watching a performer put their own body on the line. Of course, this approach has its downsides. Jason has sustained injuries on set, from cuts and bruises to pulled muscles. But in true tough guy fashion, he shrugs them off and keeps going. In Hollywood, where stars are often insulated from risk, Jason Statham stands out as a throwback to the old-school action heroes who did their own dirty work. It's not just about looking cool, Yes about respecting the craft and giving audiences the most authentic experience possible. This fact alone explains why his films feel so different. When you see Jason sliding under a truck, leaping across rooftops, or wrestling underwater, you're not watching movie magic. You're watching Jason Statham being Jason Statham. Number 7. He was a breakthrough star thanks to Guy Ritchie. If Jason's life were a movie script, the character of Guy Ritchie would be the key supporting role who changes everything. In the late 1990s, Guy Ritchie was an up-and-coming British director with a vision for gritty crime films. He didn't want polished, fake-looking gangsters. He wanted authenticity, guys who actually looked and sounded like they belonged on the streets of London. Enter Jason Statham. At that point, he wasn't an actor in the traditional sense. He was a former diver, street hustler, and part-time model. But Guy Ritchie saw something in him, something raw, unrefined, and completely real. For Ritchie's 1998 breakout film, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, he cast Jason as Bacon, a small-time con man. It was Jason's first film role, and it was like he had been preparing for it his entire life. Think about it. When Jason had to deliver lines about hustling, scamming, and navigating the London underworld, he wasn't acting. He was drawing from his own experiences selling knockoff goods and surviving in the markets. His Cockney accent wasn't put on, it was real. His mannerisms weren't studied, they were lived. Audiences could feel that authenticity, and it made him magnetic on screen. The film became a cult classic, earning international attention and turning Guy Ritchie into a household name. And right alongside him, Jason Statham was suddenly on Hollywood's radar. Ritchie saw lightning strike twice and immediately cast Jason again in Snatch, 2000, this time as Turkish, a boxing promoter caught in the middle of a chaotic underworld mess. Once again, Jason wasn't just playing a role. He embodied it with a streetwise confidence that set him apart from traditional actors. What's fascinating is how quickly his career snowballed after that. Hollywood directors were drawn to his unique presence. He wasn't a polished, drama school-trained actor. He wasn't trying to fit into Hollywood's mold of a leading man. He was different, gritty, authentic, and believable in ways most actors could only dream of. Within just a few years, he was headlining films like The Transporter, 2002, which cemented him as an international action star. And it all goes back to Guy Ritchie taking a chance on an unknown hustler-turned-model. If not for that gamble, Jason might still be selling perfume on the streets of London. Instead, he became one of the defining action heroes of his generation. This fact highlights an important lesson. Sometimes the right mentor can see in you what you don't yet see in yourself. Guy Ritchie didn't just give Jason Statham a job, he gave him a career. And Jason, true to form, took that opportunity and ran with it all the way to Hollywood. What we've seen so far is that Jason Statham's journey wasn't scripted in the traditional sense. He wasn't trained in theater schools or groomed for stardom. He was shaped by the raw experiences of his life: sports, street hustling, physical discipline, and sheer survival instinct. By the time Hollywood came knocking, he was already the character he'd end up playing on screen. Number 6. He's a real-life martial artist, not just a screen fighter. When you watch Jason Statham throw punches, kick down doors, or disarm opponents in his movies, it doesn't look staged. It looks raw, fast, and dangerous. That's because Jason isn't just pretending to be a fighter, he has trained in martial arts for years. While many Hollywood actors rehearse fight scenes as if they're choreography, Jason approaches them with the mindset of someone who actually knows how to fight. His martial arts background is diverse. He trained in kickboxing, karate, and Wing Chun Kung Fu, blending different disciplines to master striking, blocking, and movement. Later, he expanded into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, learning ground fighting and submission holds. This gave him the versatility to perform not only stand-up fights but also grappling sequences that look brutally authentic. This commitment to martial arts goes back to his early years. Even while diving, Jason was fascinated by physical training, discipline, and mastery of the body. He wasn't content to just stay in shape. He wanted to push his limits. After diving ended, martial arts became the new obsession. And it wasn't just for the screen. Jason has often said that martial arts gave him confidence, focus, and the ability to stay grounded in an unpredictable industry. What separates Jason from other action stars is how his martial arts training translates directly into his films. In The Transporter, he executes fluid, complex sequences that would be impossible without real training, like using his shirt and oil on the floor as improvised weapons during a warehouse fight. In Safe and Parker, his movements are quick, economical, and effective. Hallmarks of someone who knows combat isn't about showmanship. It's about efficiency. And let's not forget the Expendables franchise. Standing shoulder to shoulder with legends like Sylvester Stallone, Jet Li, and Dolph Lundgren, Jason had to prove he wasn't just another actor faking it. He did more than prove himself. He became the standout performer in hand-to-hand combat scenes. Stallone himself has admitted that Jason was the real deal, a guy who didn't need doubles or elaborate editing to look convincing. Fans often compare Jason to Jackie Chan or Bruce Lee in terms of dedication to authenticity. While Jason's style is grittier and more grounded, the principle is the same. The fight scenes work because they're rooted in reality. Viewers aren't just watching choreography. They're re-watching someone who has spent years training his body to move like that. In fact, Jason Statham's martial arts ability has become such a defining feature of his career that it influences the roles he takes. He gravitates toward characters who are believable tough guys, men whose combat skills come from lived experience. He doesn't play superheroes with magical powers or computer-enhanced warriors. He plays men who fight with their fists, their grit, and their instincts. And that makes him relatable, even when the action gets over the top. It's no exaggeration to say that martial arts didn't just shape Jason Statham's films. They shaped his entire persona. Without it, he might have been another generic action actor. With it, he became the face of a new generation of grounded, realistic action movies. Number 5. He transitioned from British cult films to global action icon. Many actors struggled to break out of their home country's cinema into Hollywood. Jason Statham not only managed it, he dominated it. What started with gritty, low-budget British crime films quickly transformed into global blockbusters that grossed hundreds of millions of dollars. His first breakout was, of course, Guy Ritchie's Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. That movie made him a known name in Britain. Snatch pushed him even further into international recognition, especially because it featured an ensemble cast including Brad Pitt and Benicio del Toro. Jason held his own in that lineup, proving he wasn't just a supporting player, he had star power. But the real turning point came with The Transporter in 2002. Produced by Luc Besson, this film was designed as a vehicle for Jason's unique talents: martial arts, stunt work, and gritty charisma. It was like the role had been written for him. He played Frank Martin, a driver who delivers packages without asking questions, until his conscience gets in the way. The mix of stylish car chases, brutal hand-to-hand fights, and Jason's no-nonsense presence made The Transporter an instant hit. It spawned 2 sequels, cementing Jason as a leading man in the action genre. From there, his career exploded. He became part of ensemble franchises like The Expendables, where he held his own alongside action legends from the 1980s and 1990s, proving he belonged in the same conversation. Then came Fast and Furious. His introduction as Deckard Shaw in Fast and Furious 6 and Furious 7 gave the franchise a fresh villain-turned-anti-hero. His chemistry with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was so electric that Universal spun them off into their own movie, Hobbs and Shaw. That film alone grossed over $750 million worldwide, solidifying Jason as a global box office force. What makes this transition fascinating is how natural it seemed. Most actors who move from local films to Hollywood either change their style completely or get typecast into stereotypes. Jason didn't compromise. He brought his same gritty, authentic energy from British crime films into American blockbusters, and audiences loved it. Instead of being reshaped by Hollywood, he reshaped Hollywood's idea of what an action star could be. He also proved that you didn't need to play a traditional hero to win fans. Many of his characters are morally gray, criminals, mercenaries, or reluctant heroes who operate outside the law. And yet, people root for him because he brings honesty and charisma to those roles. He's not trying to be perfect. He's trying to survive. That's something audiences can connect with, whether they're in London, Los Angeles, or Tokyo. Jason Statham's journey from cult films to international fame shows the power of authenticity. He didn't need to become someone else to succeed. He leaned into who he was, a hustler, an athlete, a fighter, and turned those qualities into box office gold. Today, when you think of modern action cinema, his name sits right alongside giants like Keanu Reeves, Tom Cruise, and Dwayne Johnson. That's an incredible leap for a man who once sold knockoff perfume on the streets of London. At this point, Jason Statham isn't just a British actor who made it. He's a brand. His films promise a certain kind of experience: grounded action, authentic stunts, and a lead actor who looks like he could actually handle himself in the situations he portrays. That's why fans keep coming back, because they know what they're going to get, and Jason always delivers. Before, he's known for his relentless work ethic and training regimen. Jason Statham isn't just lucky or genetically gifted. His success comes from relentless work, both on and off the screen. While some actors rely on makeup, camera tricks, or stunt doubles to look like heroes, Jason treats his career the same way an athlete treats professional sport, with dedication, training, and discipline every single day. His workout routine has become the stuff of legend. Unlike the typical Hollywood bulk-up approach, Jason follows what he calls functional training. Instead of focusing purely on size or appearance, he trains for performance, agility, and real-world strength. That means explosive movements, Olympic lifts, gymnastic-style holds, sprinting, rope climbing, and bodyweight mastery. When you see him sprinting, jumping, or grappling on screen, it's not just movie magic. It's the result of hours in the gym conditioning his body to do those exact things. In interviews, Jason has said he approaches fitness as a lifestyle, not a temporary preparation for a role. He doesn't just work out before shooting a film and then relax afterward. He keeps his body in fighting shape year-round. This level of consistency is rare in Hollywood, where many actors transform for specific movies and then let themselves slide in between. Jason's mindset is different. He believes action stars owe authenticity to the audience, and that means staying ready all the time. He also takes diet seriously. While he's not dogmatic about any one-eating plan, he focuses on clean, high-protein foods, avoids processed junk, and practices portion control. He's talked about his dislike for fatty diets, emphasizing instead the importance of balance and discipline. It's not glamorous, but it works, and it keeps him in the kind of shape where he can still do demanding stunt work even in his 50s. This work ethic extends beyond physical training. On set, Jason is known as one of the most prepared actors in the business. Directors and co-stars often mention that he learns his fight choreography faster than anyone else, rehearses tirelessly, and pushes for multiple takes until the scene feels perfect. He doesn't settle for good enough. That perfectionist streak is part of why his action scenes stand out in an era of CGI-heavy blockbusters. The American comparison would be Tom Cruise, another star famous for doing his own stunts and training like a man half his age. Like Cruise, Jason sees his career as a craft that deserves complete dedication. And, like Cruise, that dedication pays off at the box office. Fans know when they buy a ticket to a Jason Statham movie, they're not just going to see a performance. They're going to see someone who has poured sweat, discipline, and authenticity into every frame. It's easy to underestimate how important this is. Plenty of actors play tough guys on screen. but don't live that way off it. Audiences can sense the difference. Jason Statham doesn't just play the role. He embodies it, and that makes his characters believable. His relentless work ethic isn't just a behind-the-scenes detail. It's the reason his career has lasted, and the reason audiences keep coming back for more. Number 3. He has a reputation for staying grounded despite his fame. In Hollywood, fame often changes people. Actors who come from humble beginnings sometimes lose touch once the money and recognition roll in. But Jason Statham is one of the rare stars who has managed to keep his feet firmly on the ground, despite climbing to the top of the global action movie mountain. Part of this comes from his upbringing. Growing up in a working-class family in England, Jason learned early on that nothing in life comes easy. His father hustled as a street vendor, selling anything from jewelry to knockoff perfumes, while his mother worked as a dancer. They weren't wealthy, but they were resourceful. Jason inherited that mindset of resilience and self-reliance. Even after making millions in Hollywood, he still carries himself with the same no-nonsense working-class attitude that shaped him. Colleagues often describe him as approachable, professional, and refreshingly ego-free. While some stars demand luxury treatment on set, Jason is known for being hands-on, doing his own stunts, and treating crew members with respect. He doesn't separate himself from the people around him with a wall of fame. Instead, he embraces the collaborative nature of filmmaking. This grounded attitude extends into his personal life as well. Jason isn't constantly chasing headlines with scandals or public drama. He's been in a long-term relationship with model and actress Rosie Huntington-Whiteley since 2010, and the two are now engaged and raising a family together. Unlike many celebrity couples who thrive on publicity, Jason and Rosie keep much of their private life low-key, focusing on their family rather than Hollywood gossip. That kind of stability is rare in an industry where relationships often burn out fast under the spotlight. It also helps that Jason has never tried to reinvent himself into something he's not. He knows his lane, gritty, no-nonsense action films, and he sticks to it. He doesn't chase Oscars by trying to play roles that don't suit him. Instead, he embraces what he does best and works tirelessly to deliver it better than anyone else. That authenticity is why fans trust him. They know Jason Statham isn't faking toughness, and he isn't trying to be someone he's not. There's also an honesty to how Jason talks about his career. He doesn't pretend he's some kind of high-art actor. He's openly admitted that he sees himself as an entertainer, someone who gives audiences a thrilling ride for 2 hours. And he doesn't look down on that. He embraces it. For him, bringing excitement and adrenaline to audiences around the world is a worthy craft. In many ways, Jason's grounded nature is what keeps his films relatable. Even when he's playing over-the-top characters in big-budget blockbusters, he still feels like a guy you could meet in real life. The kind of guy who have your back in a fight, share a beer at the pub, and tell it to you straight without any sugarcoating. That balance of superstardom and down-to-earth personality is part of what makes him so enduring. Staying grounded in Hollywood isn't easy, especially with fame, fortune, and constant attention. But Jason Statham's story proves that it's possible. He never forgot where he came from, and that's why audiences continue to connect with where he's going. At this stage, we've seen how Jason Statham built his reputation, not just on physical skills but on work ethic, authenticity, and a refusal to let fame warp who he is. These traits make him stand out in a Hollywood world that often values image over substance. Jason's story is proof that staying true to yourself can be the strongest move of all. Die Figure 2. He's a global box office powerhouse. Jason Statham isn't just a recognizable face. He is one of the most bankable stars in the world. When his name appears on a poster, audiences know exactly what they're going to get. Gritty, no-nonsense action with a dose of charm. And that formula works, over and over again. Take the Transporter trilogy, which established him as a solo leading man. Those films weren't mega-budget blockbusters, yet they built a loyal fan base and proved Jason could carry an entire franchise on his shoulders. Then came Crank, Death Race, and Parker, all of which solidified his brand. High-octane, edge-of-your-seat thrillers where he plays men pushed to the brink. But the real box office explosion came when Jason joined the Expendables and Fast and Furious franchises. In The Expendables, he was the younger blood among a crew of action legends, and yet he managed to stand out. His fight scenes were among the most memorable in the series, and audiences began to see him as the natural heir to the action hero throne. Then, with Fast and Furious, Jason went from villain to anti-hero. As Deckard Shaw, he was introduced as a formidable opponent in Furious 7, a movie that grossed over $1.5 billion worldwide. His chemistry with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was so electrifying that Universal spun them off into Hobbs & Shaw, which grossed more than $750 million globally. That's not just success. That's proof Jason Statham is a worldwide draw. To put it in perspective, his films combined have grossed over $7 billion at the global box office. That puts him in an elite category alongside stars like Tom Cruise, Robert Downey Jr., and Vin Diesel. Yet, unlike many of those stars, Jason didn't come from theater schools or franchise-based acting gigs. He built his reputation from the ground up, role by role. What makes his success even more fascinating is how universal his appeal is. His films do well not only in the United States and Europe but also in Asia, where martial arts cinema has long been celebrated. In markets like China, Jason is beloved for his authenticity and physicality, reminiscent of action legends like Jackie Chan and Jet Li. He bridges East and West, combining the grit of Western crime films with the physical artistry of Asian martial arts traditions. In short, Jason Statham isn't just a British actor who made it big. He's a global icon whose name guarantees box office muscle. For one, he's one of the few true action stars left. Hollywood has changed. In today's world of CGI, superheroes, and green screens, the classic action star is an endangered species. The days of Arnold Schwarzenegger, Bruce Willis, and Sylvester Stallone dominating the box office with raw physicality seem almost gone. And yet, Jason Statham is proof that audiences still crave the real deal. What sets Jason apart is his refusal to compromise authenticity. While most modern action movies lean heavily on digital effects, Jason's films emphasize practical stunts, hand-to-hand combat, and real danger. He's a throwback to an earlier era of action cinema, but with a modern edge. His characters aren't invincible superheroes. They're men who bleed, sweat, and claw their way through impossible situations. This authenticity resonates because Jason himself embodies it. He's not an actor pretending to be tough. He's tough. He's not playing a martial artist. He is one. He's not faking stunts. He's doing them. That difference may seem small on paper, but on screen, it's everything. It's the reason his movies feel more visceral, more intense, and more believable than many of the big-budget spectacles flooding theaters. Fans also appreciate that Jason hasn't tried to abandon the genre that made him famous. While other actors pivot to prestige films or lighter roles, Jason has doubled down on action, making it his legacy. He knows his audience, he respects them, and he delivers exactly what they want. 2 hours of pulse-pounding adrenaline anchored by a believable hero. In many ways, Jason Statham represents the last generation of pure action stars. Actors who didn't need superpowers, capes, or heavy CGI to make audiences cheer. All they needed was charisma, physical skill, and a willingness to put themselves on the line. That yes, often spoken of in the same breath as the legends who came before him. For many fans, Jason Statham is the bridge between the old guard of Stallone and the new world of modern cinema. He is more than just an actor. He is a symbol of what audiences still love about action movies: authenticity, grit, and heart. Conclusion. From diving boards to street markets, from British cult films to billion-dollar franchises, Jason Statham's story is one of resilience, reinvention, and relentless authenticity. He wasn't handed fame. He earned it through hustle, discipline, and sheer force of will. Each fact about his life reveals the same core truth. Jason Statham is the real deal. He's not just playing a tough guy on screen. He has lived a life that forged him into one. And that's why audiences believe him, root for him, and keep buying tickets to see him defy the odds. Jason Statham isn't just one of the greatest action stars of his era. He may very well be one of the last of a dying breed, the kind of star who doesn't just act in action movies, but defines them. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button and share it with friends who love action movies as much as you do. Drop a comment below telling us your favorite Jason Statham film. Was it The Transporter, Crank, or maybe Hobbs & Shaw? And, of course, make sure you subscribe so you never miss our next countdown of incredible facts about the stars you love. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.